Okay guys, so today we are going to take a look at all of the houses that we have covered so far in the small town house price series and see if any of them have actually sold. All of the original videos are linked in the description if you haven't watched them yet. So the first video in this series was DANNEVIRKE, and this video was made on the 25th of the 8th 2025. The first property was listed on the 3rd of the 10th 2024, so a long time ago. The seller wanted $645,000. The overinflated 2023 CV was $560,000. I could find no record of sale for this property, but it has been listed for rent for $550 per week. The second property was listed on the 6th of the 11th 2024, so over a year ago. The seller wanted $525,000. They paid $355,000 in 2020. This property is still for sale for the same asking price. The third property was listed on the 12th of the 11th 2024. The seller wanted $660,000. The CV in 2020 was $450,000. This property is still for sale and they still want $660,000. The fourth property was listed on the 29th of the 11th 2024. It was listed for inquiries over $880,000. The 2020 CV was $590,000. Now this property is still for sale, but they've changed it now to price by negotiation. The fifth property was listed on the 11th of the 3rd 2025. The seller wanted $930,000. They paid $480,000 in 2017. This property is still for sale and they're still after $930,000. The sixth property was listed on the 1st of the 4th 2025, so April Fool's Day. It was listed for inquiries over $519,000. The buyer paid $508,000, but this property also sold in 2019 for $229,000. This property is still for sale, but it's now for inquiries over $485,000. So the next town that we looked at was GREYMOUTH. The first property was listed on the 21st of the 5th 2025. The seller wanted $329,000. The 2018 CV was $83,000. This property is still for sale, but they are now asking $319,000, so $10,000 off. What a bargain. The second property was listed on the 6th of the 5th, 2025. The seller wanted $390,000. The overinflated 2024 CV is $250,000. This property actually sold on the 29th of the 8th, 2025 for $370,000. And that's one day after I made the GREYMOUTH video. So it looks like these videos really are showing people the bargains that are out there, and I'm glad to be of service. The third property was listed on the 17th of the 3rd 2025. The seller wanted $725,000. These people paid $570,000 in 2022. Now this property is still for sale and they are still asking $155,000 more than they paid for it in 2022. The fourth property was listed on the 28th of the 2nd 2025. The seller wanted $769,000. The 2018 CV for this property was $360,000. Now this property was actually relisted on the 1st of October for $765,000. So $4,000 less than what they were originally asking for. The fifth property was listed on the 17th of the 7th 2025. The seller wanted inquiries over $395,000. They paid $238,000 in 2021. This property sold on the 1st of September for $400,000. Talk about easy money for this seller, and my sympathies go out to this buyer. So the next town that we looked at was WARKWORTH. The first property was listed on the 4th of the 11th 2024. The seller wanted $995,000. They paid $735,000 in 2020. Now this property is for sale, but it's now with an asking price of only $975,000. So a massive $20,000 reduction, but they are still wanting $240,000 more than what they paid for it in 2020. Anyone? The second property was listed on the 6th of the 3rd, 2025. The seller wanted a mere $1.559 million. To see how crazy this price is, the 2014 CV was $540,000. This property is still for sale and they still want $1.559 million. The third property was listed on the 7th of the 5th, 2025. The seller wanted $1.055 million. The 2017 CV was $860,000. Now this property sold on the 24th of the 8th, 2025 for $1.04 million, which was actually a few days before I made this video, so they still had it listed for sale when it was sold. Oh well, good luck to the new owners. The fourth property was listed on the 21st of the 5th, 2025. The seller wanted $1.47 million. The 2017 CV was $940,000, and this property is no longer listed for sale. The fifth property was listed on the 17th of the 7th, 2025. The seller wanted $1 million. The 2017 CV was $830,000. This property is still for sale, but with an asking price of $980,000. It's funny, isn't it? When prices go up, they go up in $200,000 increments, but when they go down, they go in $10,000 or $20,000 increments. So the next town that we looked at was KAWERAU. The first property was listed on the 25th of the 2nd, 2025. The seller wanted inquiries over $419,000. The property fetched $230,000 in 2019. But this property is still for sale for inquiries over $419,000. The second property was listed on the 16th of the 6th, 2025. The seller wanted $489,000. The property was sold in 2015 for $125,000. And this property actually sold on the 18th of August, 2025 for $478,000. Which is crazy because the property was still listed for sale when I made this video 2 weeks later. Now I hope that these buyers did their research and actually seen what the house was worth in 2015 before they paid nearly 4 times that price. The third property was listed on the 28th of the 7th, 2025. The seller wanted $460,000. This seller paid $215,000 for the property in 2019. And this property is still for sale for the same asking price of $460,000. The fourth property was listed on the 3rd of the 9th, 2025. The seller wanted inquiries over $425,000. The property actually changed hands in 2019 for $185,000. This property actually sold on the 12th of November and the price is still to be confirmed. The fifth property was listed on the 3rd of the 9th, 2025. The seller wanted $550,000. Now it looks like a shop converted into an apartment in the middle of the charming KAWERAU town centre. And I've got no record of past sales data. And I haven't really got much else to say about this property. This property is still for sale for the same asking price. The next town that we looked at was WHITIANGA. The first property was listed on the 3rd of the 9th, 2025. The seller wanted $1.425 million. The seller paid $749,000 in 2016. Now this property is still for sale and they still want $1.425 million. The second property was listed on the 6th of the 6th, 2025. The seller wanted $1.675 million. The CV in 2014 was $640,000, so $1 million less. And this property actually sold on the 22nd of the 9th, 2025 for $1.6 million. Now some people must just have so much money that throwing an extra $1 million down means nothing to them. And good luck to them. The third property was listed on the 13th of the 1st, 2025. The seller wanted $2.395 million. The 2017 CV was $1.17 million. Now this property is still for sale, believe it or not, and they are asking for the same asking price. The fourth property was listed on the 16th of the 12th, 2024. The seller wanted $940,000. The CV in 2014 was $395,000. This property sold on the 10th of October for $890,000. Now that's a big profit for these sellers, seeing as they paid $739,000 just before COVID. Those poor buyers, eh? They really must have seen them coming. So the fifth property was just a little patch of land. It was listed on the 11th of the 9th, 2025. The seller wanted $395,000. The 2020 CV was $295,000. Now this tiny patch of land actually sold on the 2nd of October for $395,000. Incredible. So the next town that we looked at was WAIROA. The first property was listed on the 31st of the 7th, 2024. The seller wanted $550,000. The CV was $107,000 in 2015. And this property is still for sale at the same unbelievable asking price. The second property was listed on the 20th of the 2nd, 2025. The seller wanted $599,000. The property changed hands in 2019 for $210,000, and that was before the COVID greed kicked in. This property is still for sale, but it is now inquiries over $560,000. So now they only want a mere $350,000 above the 2019 price. The third property was listed on the 25th of the 6th, 2025. The seller wanted $349,000. These buyers paid $235,000 in 2020. Now this property is no longer listed for sale. The fourth property was listed on the 13th of the 8th, 2025. The seller wanted $560,000. The 2018 CV was $265,000. This property is still for sale, but now with an asking price of $540,000. The fifth property was listed on the 2nd of the 9th, 2025. The seller wanted $580,000. The 2018 CV was $340,000. Now this property is still for sale and they still want $580,000. So the next town that we looked at was LEVIN. The first property was listed on the 10th of the 6th, 2025. The seller wanted $420,000. The property changed hands in 2019 for $293,000. And this property is still for sale and they still want $420,000. The second property was listed on the 13th of the 6th, 2025. The seller wanted $599,000. This seller paid $275,000 in 2018. Now this property is still for sale, but now they want a mere $575,000. So they would only walk away with $300,000 profit. So generous. The third property was listed on the 25th of the 7th, 2025. The seller wanted inquiries over $505,000. The 2016 CV was $155,000. The property is still for sale, but now they want a mere $480,000 for something that was worth $155,000 in 2016. Okay. The fourth property was listed on the 5th of the 8th, 2025. The seller wanted $520,000. The house changed hands in 2015 for $192,000. This property actually sold on the 31st of October and the price is still to be confirmed. Now I sure hope that these buyers didn't pay too much. The fifth property was listed on the 7th of the 8th, 2025. The seller wanted $582,000. The property changed hands in 2015 for $180,000. The property is no longer listed for sale. So the next town that we looked at was Westport. The first property was listed on the 6th of the 10th, 2024. The seller wanted $190,000. The 2019 CV was $75,000. And this property is still for sale and they still want $190,000. The second property was listed on the 27th of the 2nd, 2025. The seller wanted $235,000. The 2019 CV was $123,000. And this property is still for sale and they still want $235,000. The third property was listed on the 10th of the 4th, 2025. The The seller wanted $285,000. The property actually changed hands in 2021 for $139,000. Now this property is still for sale, but they have massively reduced the price $6,000 to $279,000. An absolute bargain, I think. The fourth property was listed on the 17th of the 4th, 2025. The seller wanted $279,000. The 2019 CV was $105,000. This property is still for sale and they still want $279,000. The fifth and final property was listed on the 20th of the 4th, 2025. The seller wanted $580,000. The 2019 CV was $240,000. Now this property is still for sale and they still want the same price. So yes guys, I hope you enjoyed this little recap. Out of the 41 properties we looked at, 9 have sold, and I can safely say that all of these 9 properties have sold for far more than what the properties would have sold for had the RBNZ not manipulated the market during COVID. So anyone considering overpaying now, remember you are just a pawn in the RBNZ's latest little wealth effect game. You can beat the RBNZ by either holding off from buying or only offering what the properties are really worth, which are far below current listing prices. So in the next episode of Small Town House Prices, we're going to be looking at go! So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers for that.